Greetings! Welcome to our show, Ghosts Are Near, where we discuss various aspects of the paranormal and paranormal exploration. I am your host, Keith Johnson. With me is my co-host, Sandra Johnson.
Hello there.
My other co-host, Carl Johnson.
Hello there. Which camera? Hi there.
Yes, you're around somewhere.
Good evening.
I am the founder of New England Anomalies Research, also known as R. Sandra is my co-founder. Carl is our senior member. And I'd very much like to welcome you to our 1-year anniversary.
Oh, yes.
Can you believe it? Our show's been going on a year already.
Comes around fast.
I actually didn't realize that until you just said it.
Well, happy 1-year anniversary, Sandra and Carl.
Well,
thank you.
same
Happy
to you,
anniversary to you.
Yes.
You are our enabler.
Well, thank you. I'm glad I'm good for something.
1 year and going strong.
Yeah, we've had some very interesting guests so far.
Some interesting adventures, yes.
Yes.
Quite a collection of personalities that come to our studio.
Well, I believe tonight we're going to be discussing a topic we're all familiar with. Along with our past shows, we're also going to be talking about demonology.
Yes, many people have been requesting a show around around demonology and inhuman hauntings and our take on that subject. So,
By the way, I brought along some memorabilia. There's a fork bent by Rory Raven, our memorable shows there.
bent by the Rory Raven.
Do not
one and
use
only.
this fork.
Do not try this at home, yes, because it won't work at home. Another fork bent by Rory Raven, mentalist. Bent it right on our show.
He's an amazing guy.
Yeah. Oh, here's a spoon. Bent not by Rory Raven, but by Keith Jr.
Okay.
Not a mentalist.
No, but he bends spoons and silverware just as well.
Did you bring any distorted, any other?
Bare hands. He does it with his bare hands.
Have any other distorted silverware for the show, or is
I
this,
think that's it.
That's kind of
I ran
it.
out
Your
right
pockets
now.
are empty now.
Right. We can get some more later.
Carving knives.
Yeah, right. Oh, I don't do carving knives. And cut myself a little bit with that. So, you have some questions for us, Sandra, you'd like to ask?
Yes, I do. I think we should get right into this. Now, your titles are demonologist.
Yes.
I'd
I'd like to specify that's not a plaque on the wall from the Vatican.
okay. Well, we'll get into that.
Okay.
And I like to think of myself as an assistant demonologist, paranormal investigator mainly, but anytime that Keith is working in the capacity of a demonologist, I'm always right there by his side. So I'm the assistant.
I appreciate it. I do appreciate it.
And here we go. Okay. Let's see. First of all, let's establish what exactly a demonologist is and what it's not.
Well, a demonologist is a paranormal investigator, but one who specializes in exploring the realm of inhuman entities. In other words, not the human manifested spirit entities, but something that's a little more inexplainable and insidious. It's something that's not of the human origin. In other words, it's not the spirit of a deceased human being, rather something that has a unique origin and something that's generally stronger than a human spirit. Generates more energy, more power, that can be gauged.
Of course, a demon can encase any spirit. The definition of a demon is actually wise spirit, correct?
Yeah, wise spirit, well, that's its Greek word. The origin of the word demon does in Greek mean wise one. You know, it's supposed to be, originally that denoted a guardian angel or a guardian spirit. But in later parlance, it became connotative with an evil spirit, a strong, invasive spirit.
Right. And inhuman spirits also encase other spirits as well, such as angelic.
Yes.
You know, it's
Yeah, that's a wide realm of inhuman spirits.
Right, right. And we've had our angelologist, R.N.E.A.R Smith, on as a guest discussing angels and demons. And
Very interesting show.
yes.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
How about what actually got you interested in this field of study? I mean, I know what made me interested, you know, investigating with you. I mean, had never really considered investigating with the demonic in mind, or inhuman hauntings, until I became involved with you two and started investigating that realm. What actually made you interested in that aspect of paranormal investigation?
Well, the first actual case we went on as paranormal investigators turned out to be a full-blown demonic case.
Yes.
It was way back some years ago when we were associated with Rhode Island College.
Right, back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm. And we were members of a group based at Rhode Island College called PIRO, Paranormal Investigative and Research Organization. And that was before the internet was in usage. So Keith posted an ad in a paper for anybody who needed help with a haunting. And to our surprise, we got a very quick response. And it was somebody out in the Harrisville area, of Boroughville. We went to investigate with this group, PIRO, and it turned out it had all the indications of a demonic case. In that heavy objects were being moved around. They had strange scents that were arising that didn't seem to originate from any way they could tell. There were wrappings on the walls. The children were being disturbed. So, as well.
So a lot of poltergeist-type activity.
Indicative of a haunting. Yeah, some poltergeist activity. So that was our case. We had to be there for that.
But it seemed to be centered on the family and certain family members, like working on them to kind of break down their resistance, to break down their psyche. That's where it seemed to have some strategy to it.
It's centered on, I believe, their oldest daughter and on the
mother, too, yes.
The mother. They were showing the effects of it. Mm-hmm. In fact, her husband, who was originally a skeptic about all this, he thought it had a mundane, explainable cause to explain everything. And he was waking up with scratches on his arm. And his sleep was being disturbed almost nightly, so he became a believer, too. He wanted help with this problem.
Once it started happening to him.
Yeah. Well, it remained inexplicable, but it seemed to target, as you mentioned, certain people in that house. It turned its attention, the entity, seemed to turn its attention to the father, to her husband. And so he very much wanted help with this case as well.
Okay, and I think that you, Keith, touched on this briefly just a moment ago. Could you describe what you feel are your credentials as a demonologist?
My credentials, well, like I said, I don't have a plaque on my wall from the Vatican, but...
I would have seen it.
Right, you would have known about it by now. I wasn't specifically trained as a demonologist except through personal experience and much personal study, and my faith as well. It's my personal faith that led me into this. I have very deep Christian beliefs. And plus, I had the privilege of personally working with Ed and Lorraine Warren on some cases years ago. And of course, we've been good friends with the Warrens for many years. Unfortunately, we lost Ed last year. He passed away last August 23rd. But I did study with him, and we were very close. Carl, the same thing.
Yes, indeed. Yes, last August 23rd we lost Ed, so it's almost the year anniversary of his passing, losing Ed. But he had been infirm for some time.
Right. But I really felt like I was being led into this type of work, and that's what we do refer to it as, is the work. It's like some of my colleagues, like John Zaffis, who of course is Ed Warren's nephew, and Adam Bly, for example. So we pretty much do the same thing. We all have our different separate methods, but we all do follow in the work, and we have similar belief systems.
I feel that way too. I feel that I was led first, to you, and then to become part of the work.
Yes, exactly.
I feel I don't know if I want to use the word comfortable, but I'm in the right place.
Exactly.
I'm in the spot that I was meant to be. What would you say, when is the point where you would think it would be necessary for a potential client to call upon specifically a demonologist as opposed to just any old paranormal organization?
Carl?
If there are indications that it's a particularly strong haunting, a malevolent haunting, they might want to consult a demonologist, because we are trained as paranormal investigators. But we specialize in being able to discern between the more human type of haunting. I keep going back to that. I'm talking about a human-generated haunting. The standard, if you will, ghost that seems rather innocuous, doesn't seem to be bothering the people, just maybe showing up inconveniently. But a demonic entity seems to evince a purpose, a modus, and then one might call us in specifically, call upon our training, our experience in this realm. If they are being assaulted by this entity, if it really seems out to get them, if they're convinced it's hostile, it's disturbing their sleep, it seems bent on driving them out of their house, well, that has a personality to it. That has a mission. Then they might want to consult us, have us come in, and at least we'll be able to attempt to determine if it's that more human type of haunting or something darker, something stronger, something more malevolent, something sinister.
Right, and there's a difference between something trying to drive them out of the house and trying to drive them out of their minds.
Yes. Well, a human type spirit might have some resentment for the new residents, might not want people occupying what it considers its residence, its abode. But there's something more insidious about the demonic entity. It seems to want to hurt them, not just drive them out of their house, but cause them as much grief and misery as it can. These seem to evince a childlike personality, but a vindictive one. Mm-hmm. And because it's an entity you can't see, you can't deal with through normal means, it's quite unsettling. So we've explored hauntings that seem to suggest the possibility. I'm always using the word suggest, possibility, indicate. That's what it is in this realm. A lot of supposition, a lot of exploring and theorizing. Mm-hmm. But if we evaluate the situation and determine it's probably a demonic haunting, then we will take action. We'll take what measures we can to quell that haunting, that influence.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How about the motivation behind the demonic? In other words, the battle in heaven. The fallen angels lost the battle in heaven. They know they're doomed.
Right.
What ultimately do they hope to accomplish by involving themselves with humans and sort of wreaking havoc with our lives?
I believe they realize they only have a short time left, and they're trying to hurt God and insult God by destroying as much of His creation as they can, and of course that includes humans who are created in His image. It's an insult to God and an intense hatred and jealousy for humanity as well, because we're given the gift of free will. In that way we are like God. We're not omnipotent by any means. We're much less. We are of course inferior to God, but God has given us the gift of free will and free choice among all His creatures. We have this psyche that enables us to do this, the soul, if you will. And I believe that's the purpose of the demonic, to try to destroy humanity, get at God through us.
Of course, Keith is talking from a theological viewpoint. Mm-hmm. But we find that to be most effective. We really don't know what these things are, to be sure. But we find that if they are approached as genuine demonic entities, hostile, satanic beings, it's better to confront them that way, because they behave in that manner. And if we take a theological approach to banishing, to quelling them, that seems most effective. They respond to that. Mm-hmm. If they didn't, we wouldn't continue to approach the investigations that way, when it's a demonic entity.
Okay. And that was one of the things that you said was rather interesting about, could you give us an example of what you theorize to be what these demonic entities could be if they're not fallen angels? What do you have any ideas as far as
their displacements, their containments of hostility? We're not sure, of course, what their origins are. They may be fallen angels. They may spring from that abode we call hell. They may just be containments of bad emotion, negative, hostile influence generated by human beings. We just know they're there, and they act as if they're inhuman. They don't respond as the human type of spirit will. So we can theorize. We can suggest what they might be, and then take an approach, evaluate the situation, and take the appropriate approach. What we do know is that they're not happy with the people around them. They're not happy with the human occupants of a house. So
I've actually even heard that there's one theory that inhuman entities have something to do with, are connected with extraterrestrials.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you all have kind of played with that idea at all.
I don't play with it too far, because that's just one more theory or one more supposition you can think about, and there are so many possibilities. Yeah, they could be of extraterrestrial or ultra-terrestrial origin, interdimensional.
Yes, I go along with that theory.
As long as we know we can't totally explain them away, we have to take some kind of approach to deal with them if we're called in to assist with the case. As you're talking about, as in space aliens?
This is just a theory that I've heard.
Right.
Nothing that I really feed into myself, but I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah.
Maybe they're space ghosts.
Space
It
ghosts.
seems to me that if it was an alien entity, that it could do so much more physically in a physical realm than just disturb people and show up unexpectedly.
They do seem to have limited abilities, though.
Yeah,
Really, even coming through as an EVP, they often have limited abilities. I mean, a genuine EVP. They seem to have... not every EVP is a Class A EVP, of course. It does. Even one that doesn't seem to be a human, if it seems to be demonic.
Right. Electronic voice phenomena, sometimes it's clearer than other times.
Right.
Sometimes you can really tell what it's saying. Sometimes you'll have to play back that recording a few times to analyze it and determine what it says. But all we know for certain is that there's something nasty there, something that you can't see. We're not going to determine just what principles it operates on. You know, there are forces or poorly understood, if understood at all, in operation here.
Right. Whereas a ghost, so to speak, doesn't even necessarily have to be of a deceased person, per se, the classic ghost.
Right.
That can be interdimensional or even time displacement.
There do seem to be categories in the way these unseen entities behave, or basically invisible. Sometimes they may appear, that's rare, but generally if it's hostile, if it's malevolent, and it exerts a certain amount of power.
And it targets certain people.
Yes, and it's looking for certain people, then we consider it to be in the realm of demonic. And we must approach it as such, treat it as if it's a demon.
And of course there's the theory that it's very, very much a mystery, of course. This goes back to pre-recorded history, to our antiquity, to way back before, long before our modern civilization, because I personally believe there have been other civilizations before us, and we're not necessarily the most advanced, we're not necessarily the most modern. I know that might rifle some people, but we're not necessarily at the pinnacle. I think we're rising up, and we're rising up very, very rapidly. But I think we had interference from beings of another dimension, so to speak, many, many eons ago, who corrupted our society, corrupted our genetics even. And they came up with certain monstrosities, if you will, through their genetic enhancement or whatever. And
Are you referring to Nephilim?
yes, Nephilim, which means the fallen ones. And of course, the fallen angels would be Nephilim because they are fallen. But they also produced these genetic hybrids that were not completely human, and they were not completely spirit either. They were kind of interbred, and of course they were very, very powerful and very advanced too, very advanced even by our standards. And so it really corrupted the bloodline of humanity, and I think that was the intention of the fallen ones from the beginning.
And of course a lot of this is speculation, but we know that we as a species have always believed in good and evil spirits on the whole. Human beings have a superstitious side to their nature because we don't accept the unexplainable. We need a cause, we need a reason, we need some theory to explain what's going on around us. People used to need this to explain why there's night and day, why there's dark and then light again.
Yes, and
and
we
then
still
dark.
say the sun rises and falls, of course.
Right.
Goes back to antiquity.
Now, people always had their evil spirits around them. Perhaps some of these evil spirits that were believed in were pulled out of time into our own time. Even though we're so sophisticated now in the 21st century, there's a remnant in our minds and around us, something that calls to us the mystery of our existence. It has its dark side and its light side. I think part of our minds still embrace that dark side. We maintain a belief in evil spirits on some level or another. There are very few individuals that I know of that don't retain some superstitious part of their nature.
And most cultures have this belief. Most, if not all, cultures do have something akin to this.
It's not perhaps quite as prevalent in our culture, but we still do get plenty of calls.
Well, we're multicultural
Yeah.
anyway, so we're intermingled so much.
And people report these to us. People report they're having spiritual problems. They are being assaulted. And I know it's not all their imagination.
Well, I think a lot of people in our audience are interested in paranormal investigation and very familiar with the equipment that we use as far as strict paranormal investigation on a scientific level. What about specifically for a demonologist? Are there, obviously I know, but what equipment do we use as investigators who specialize in inhuman hauntings that would be different from
In other words,
average paranormal investigator?
not equipment that's specifically designed to take readings and measure energy levels, but something that's more geared toward a demonic assault.
Because you're going way outside the realm of parapsychology here. You get into demonology. And of course, most of our equipment, a lot of it anyway, is pretty much the same because we start out doing an investigation. You know, we don't come in with the supposition that, well, this is a demonic spirit, so we're going to act accordingly. We have to find out pretty much for ourselves. You know, we interview the client, but then we have to conduct our own investigation and occasionally our own provocation to see if it is a demonic spirit. Whereas we may use an EMF detector, but you know, that's more for ruling out, I think. Like if there's a power surge somewhere, you know, that's more for eliminating other possibilities, unless something walks right in front of you. And thermal imaging, you know, that can be so-so too. But really, when it comes down to it, a lot of these things are, unless something's right there, most of the equipment is to rule out mundane explanations.
But there are certain items that you would bring,
well,
or that we would bring on an
items
investigation
that,
that your average paranormal investigator would not have in their equipment
religious items, that have been blessed.
I think that's what she's getting at, the religious items.
Yeah, exactly. Something like blessed water, of course, that has the holy vibrations, the positive vibrations, and some spirits will react hostilely to that. And that's especially in the case of possession. If you got somebody that may be demonically possessed, well, you don't want to talk them into, you know, revealing, well, you are possessed. You don't want to feed into that. You want to kind of take them off guard. And you don't want to come in holding crosses in front of them that have been blessed and everything. You want to, you know, take a very subtle approach. But, I mean, water is water. Say if you have, you know, like water here, it's just drinking water. But if it's blessed, then you have some holy vibrations, very positive vibrations. And an evil spirit, a demonic spirit, is the antithesis of that. It's going to react very violently, even though you may not have told somebody that that's blessed water.
But some people
sometimes get a reaction.
Keith, some people have seen another side of you, the dynamic individual with a cross in front of him, the holy water, blessing the entire premise of a house upon the client's request.
Yes. That's usually at the end, though, the end of the investigation, when we've done all our tests, we've ruled out everything else. And
I don't think that even occurs many times on the first investigation, on the first when we first meet the client and go into a home.
It's only upon the client's request, of course.
For every 10 minutes of footage you see, there's probably 6 or 7 hours of investigation that's just been going on.
All I know is generally when I see you on a television program, you're performing a pretty powerful blessing. You know, you are the holy man.
It's very dramatic. Can a deceased person, a deceased human's spirit, become demonic?
Oh, would you like to answer that, Carl?
That's a Carl theory, actually.
You pick up the check.
that perhaps something that had a human origin. This may seem to contradict what I said earlier, but I've wondered and theorized if perhaps a human consciousness that has been displaced through bodily death can eventually become so debased and degenerative that it, and when I say that, I mean hostile, angry, carried over conflicts from its living existence into another realm of existence. Perhaps with time and with other influences, perhaps genuinely inhuman demonic influences around it, perhaps it can degenerate into a demonic entity.
Yeah, somebody
That's
like
my
Ivan
theory.
the Terrible or Vlad Tepes, Dracula. But I don't know, because I saw on a television program where there was this young couple who were supposedly visited, and now Vlad Tepes, Dracula, takes over the young man, but he's refined. He's not as cruel as he was. He's been refined over the years.
He's refined.
That's their theory. He's not as bad a guy.
Something about death that just smooths over the personality for some reason. See, Vlad Tepes was not saved then, you feel?
Well, he's supposedly hanging around.
If anybody should, yeah.
Death can be a good thing.
Yeah.
Improve one's character.
Well, we've
Yeah.
only got a few more minutes left, actually, believe it or not, on this our first-year anniversary show. So,
Well,
Yeah,
this is definitely going to have a part two, because
yes.
Yeah, well, it took you a while to pull me out of myself. I'm not used to being interviewed. But once I start talking, I can keep on going.
Carly-san.
I'll do
No
part
kidding.
2 for you. I'll do part 2 for you. In fact, you were just going to ask us, is there anything that frightens us these days after years of experience with paranormal investigation?
You're going to
Why,
ask us that?
Carl? He's a mind reader, a psychic. I just don't know how he does it.
Isn't it in your notes?
You're a mentalist.
Would you like to field that question that Sandra was going to ask? What scares us now, if anything?
Well, what scares you, Carl?
That was somewhere on my list. It wasn't the next one, but...
If I find myself removed, if I've heard that it's a particularly virulent haunting, if I find myself removed from the setting, if I try not to wander off by myself. You're really not supposed to do that. It's a safety issue primarily. But if I'm exploring an old attic or basement, those can unnerve me. I wouldn't say they go as
Right.
far as to scare me, but they can unsettle
And you don't
me.
want to get cornered, for sure.
No. Old musty basements and attics
Yeah.
can unsettle me. They can scare me a little.
That actually wraps it up.
Yeah.
So, Sandra, would you like to speak about our contact info in the last few seconds?
Certainly. Let's see what my notes say here.
Let's wrap it up.
Well, you
Okay.
got 30 seconds to do it.
As always, we'd like you to know we at New England Anomalies Research are available to assist you with alleged hauntings. And those of you who may be experiencing unexplained phenomena, we'd like to hear from you if you have a show suggestion or would even like to be a guest on Ghosts or Near. So give us a shout, Ghosts or Near at cox.net, and we'll believe you.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Appreciate it.